And good morning. Whoa, how you guys doing? Another episode of vExpert Daily here at VMworld in the aforementioned hang space, now VM Village, I guess. I'm Shane Williford, Senior Systems Engineer, based out of North Kansas City. VMware vExpert, blah, 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 blah. Why don't we go down the row of folks we got here. Introduce yourself, a brief introduction.
Okay, I'm Gina Rosenthal, and I'm a product marketing manager for Spanning by EMC, Office 365 backup.
There we go. Maybe sound. Sound 1, 2.
Mic is on. Okay. Wah, 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 wah.
There we go.
And wah, 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 wah. I'm Calvin Zito, HPE Storage, Calvin Zito on Twitter, and blog is hpe.com/storage/blog.
And I'm Mark May. I'm at Cincy Storage on Twitter. I like to talk about stuff and do stuff and generally just annoy people.
Nice. If anybody wants to find me, I guess I didn't say my Twitter, at CoolSport00. I didn't say that on Monday. So.
I didn't say mine either, Minks.
Minks.
Yeah.
At
no one will be able to find
Great.
you guys.
All right. So you guys listened to some of the general sessions and one yesterday. What was your take on what they had to present yesterday in vSAN? Other areas that they covered? Any particular takeaways from that? Gotchas, wow moments, good, bad, indifferent?
I'll be honest. I missed some of the first part of it,
right?
Because breakfast doesn't have protein, and I ended up meeting somebody whose organization is going to Office 365. So we went and had breakfast and talk shop.
Awesome.
So I missed a whole bunch of it, unfortunately.
That's all right.
Since Gina's so honest, I'll be honest too. I missed all of it except what I was following on Twitter while I was at breakfast. I don't know. For me, it's an interesting kind of place where VMware is and where they're going. We talked a little bit about it ourselves this morning at breakfast. HPE has had a kind of a product that didn't compete with VMware until they came out with vSAN. So it's kind of just an interesting space to see how they're doing, how fast they're getting customers. I think when customers are looking at that software-defined storage space, there's lots of options. I think they just need to make sure they understand kind of what their priorities are and look at all the different options for them. But there's a lot of great things happening with vSAN. It's a strong product. I'm jealous at how fast they've developed and gotten to where they are.
Right, yeah. Mark?
I think one of the most interesting things about vSAN was that 60% of the customers are actually running on production workloads now. I didn't think
that wasn't the
high.
case last year. It was
right.
Pretty small.
Yeah, the growth is.
I didn't know it was that high.
Line.
Wow.
Right. That's
nice.
why it was interesting.
Yeah. Getting back to Calvin's point a little bit, with the implementation of vSAN, or at least how strong it's growing, being implemented in production environments with so many enterprises, what do you see VMware stance on the HCI? I know we're getting back into that again, but the HCI model, how do you see VMware positioning themselves with, say, like SimpliVity and SolidFire and all those?
I think they have kind of a confusing go-to-market strategy.
Mm.
Lots of products, software only, hardware only through VCE, and I think that they're trying to give customers choice, and all those choices is just leading to confusion. I think if they just stop the overlap between VxRack, SDDC, VxRail, EvoRail, software only, and all those things, it would be a much better landscape for them.
And yeah, I think it's kind of, I guess, maybe good for VMware that the acquisition close didn't happen this week, because I think it would have created a lot of maybe not confusing, but it would have kind of maybe taken the limelight away from VMware, because there's a lot of things that Dell and EMC are going to have to tell us what they're going to do. And I agree with exactly what Mark said. I mean, there's a lot of overlap the stuff that Dell has in their portfolio of doing hyperconverge, there's going to need to be some reckoning in terms of, let's rationalize the portfolio.
Well, what about
I can't wait to see what they say. I'm going to
Evo
feel we'll
World.
hear that.
So let me just say something real quick. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been at Dell and I've been at EMC both, and it was interesting because I think Pat touched on this and Chad definitely touched on this a couple of times when I was at the VUG, yeah, is what you're supposed to say to that, and in the booth for his humongous booth presentation. And I can tell you it's true from working at Dell. It's all about giving customers choice and not punching your customer in the face. So there always can be better messaging. I'm a product marketer. That's always the case. And so all the feedback that they get, I'm sure they're going to roll that into how they message it. But just from working at Dell, that's a key tenet. You make sure customers have choice to do what is best for the customers. And it didn't sound like, from what I heard from the execs yesterday, that's going to change anytime soon.
Well, because VMware has its own packaged HCI, right? They have Evo Rail, right? And those kinds of things. How is that
Is that still a thing?
That's my question. Is that still a thing?
I don't think that's a thing anymore.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I don't think it is.
Well, and that goes back to your point about confusion, right? Because, EMC has, or VCE, the confusion part there again with VxRail and those boxes,
Yeah, they need a consistent go-to-market strategy, and it looks like the vExpert seems to be that for vSAN. Looks like it, but we'll see.
All right.
And I kind of piggyback on what Gina said. I went through Compaq HP merger.
Oh, right.
And no customers got punched in the face, but there were decisions that had to get made about consolidating, because you can't have multiple streams of R&D that do things that are so similar, that have so much overlap, but we're just going to keep both because we're just going to keep both. At some point you have to rationalize a portfolio, and especially, this acquisition is taking on a huge amount of debt. They're going to have to pay for it. You're not going to be able to have 5 product teams developing something that has a lot of overlap. At some point, there's going to be a reckoning. They're going to have to make decisions.
Right.
And I'm sure I'm going to take a guess what I'm going to say they're do, because I don't know squat, obviously.
Neither do I.
Is that they'll give customers a long enough runway and a clear path of how to move to whatever is going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to punch customers in the face. When we had EVA and EVA went away in favor of 3PAR, we didn't leave EVA customers hanging. Right. They had a clear path to keep using what they were using, and then a way to get to 3PAR if that's what they wanted to do. So I have no doubt they're smart. They're going to not do the wrong thing for customers, but they'll have to figure out what it is they're going to have, and it's going to have to be some portfolio that is rationalized. And I'm going to guess it's going to be as much as they can. It's built in-house. They're not going to want to use third-party
right.
stuff, but we'll see.
That's the cool part about them going private, right? Is they can focus the R&D dollars that they do spend where they want to spend without worrying about how the street's going to react. No, you can't deviate from a storage array because you're a storage array provider. You can do what you want to do where you think the market's going to go.
And this is why I'm really glad that I do SaaS backup, because we're the only ones that do it in both companies, so it's pretty cool.
Well, getting back to your guys' point about their portfolio, what do you think about VMware's diversity in their portfolio of products that they have? Do you think there's anything that they can or maybe should, and we're just playing devil's advocate. We all love VMware. We're not bashing VMware, of course. We're VMware vExperts up here. But they have expanded over the years, kind of making some questionable decisions on some acquisitions. Name changes, I won't mention any, but what do you think of their portfolio of products that they have?
I think they have a pretty strong portfolio. I think where they're at, though, you have to keep trying, and you have to see what's going to work and see where the market's going to go and see what does and doesn't work for you. If you're not continually innovating, you're going to get left behind. Right? Not everything can be, vMotion. We can't have a vMotion every year. It's just, sorry.
Yeah, and I think we may have touched on this on Monday on the vExpert Daily, but the core of what VMware is about and what people love about VMware is vSphere. And they're under pressure, as any company is, any one of us that work for somebody that generates revenue, to increase revenue. And they're trying to find ways of doing it. So something like vSAN, as much as I dislike the fact that I'm now a frenemy. I could see how they do it. It gives them an opportunity to continue to grow revenue. And as long as what they're doing is serving customers, great. And like you said, they're going to try things, and sometimes they're going to work. You got to try them, and it's great. It's great for customers.
Great.
I'll go back to me being a SaaS provider. So for me to sit and hear one of the keynotes early on, and they talked about SaaS. So I know some of this stuff is brand new, and they're rolling it out, and the adoption won't be there. But I mean, I've been talking about cloud backup for just a year. The company I work for has been doing it for 7 years, and it's just now being seen as something to adopt. I think it's kind of amazing that you walk the show floor and you got AWS here and you got GitHub here. So things are changing. And we're like in the forefront of it. We know all about it right away. We know all about it before anybody else does. But it really takes everybody else, and as far as like market adoption and like Calvin was saying, dollars behind it and starting to make revenue. Everything's in so much flux right now as far as what we can buy and where you should go and what it should look like after 3 years or 5 years in your data center. You got to stay way ahead of it, but it takes a long time for that adoption curve to catch up to what everybody's doing and actually make revenue. So, it might be confusing, but I think that's just the way our whole market is right now. It's just everything's kind of not in flux, it's kind of changing. It's kind of shifting all around us, and we're going to see what sifts out and what's real in the next 5 years, and we'll have a different conversation then about.
Sure, an ecosystem changes. One of our colleagues was saying earlier, I think is apropos there. Getting back to AWS, I don't know, I haven't noticed them in-house before as far as in the solutions floor area. Maybe I just missed them, but at least I noticed them obviously this year. I like that. I like that VMware is allowing some competitors, because that's a competition to their services. What do you think about them, going back to your guys' point, Gina's and Calvin's point about doing what's best for the customer? That kind of shows that they really are doing that.
Well, they definitely seem to be embracing with their concept of any cloud, right?
Yes.
They're embracing wherever you want it to run and how they can enable you to do that. And it's always a good thing to continue their open ecosystem and let that flourish and let customers have the choice that they want when it makes sense and when it works.
Right.
And I forgot the name of the announcement on Monday.
I was just getting ready to the cross cloud services and cloud foundation. Yeah, I mean they're using those, so kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's huge, because when you talk to customers, customers don't like the idea of having all of their critical data one place, and they don't have the option to move it someplace else. So they don't want the cloud lock-in. So for VMware to have a way to provide being able to go to cross clouds and move your data around, it's huge, because that's really what people want. It's the same as getting vendor lock-in when you're on premises.
Right.
Is it premises or premises?
I almost said prem just to piss everybody off.
Yeah, we had an issue with that on Monday, I think, right? So getting back to the show floor, as far as the solutions area, any vendors catch your eye this year? Any particular technology? I know Cohesity kind of won some awards down there. But we got a clap over there.
Lots of security.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Lots of security on the show floor this
There
year,
is.
which I think is interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I last year walked the show floor, and we talked about this, I think, again at some point, but I counted 34 storage startups that either were at that state where they're maybe gone public but haven't reached escape velocity yet, or they're still private. And I don't see as many here this time. And I was talking with a consultant yesterday, and it's like it's these proverbial tornado spouts all over the show floor, because there's a tech reckoning coming. I mean, there's just too many vendors. There's not enough VC money to drive it all. And it's going to be a really interesting time over the next couple of months or couple of years to see who survives. And it won't necessarily be the one that has great technology, because sometimes it's not the best technology that wins in these kind of tornadoes.
Well, it's a finite shrinking market, right? We're seeing more and more driving costs down and the usage decreasing as we consume more cloud services. So as that happens, you're going to have to see vendor consolidation, and it's going to be a very interesting couple of years. And the tail on this is a while. It's not happening tomorrow, but it's coming.
And in fact, I think last year, not to call any vendor out, but I think Data Gravity won Best of Show last year.
They do.
And they're not here this year. They're off redoing who they are because they've kind of realized that this is not going to be a direction that's going to have a long viability.
Well, you fail fast and hopefully fail cheap and try something new.
And where do you see the technology ecosystem as a whole kind of going to? I mean, we kind of hinted at it. I think we kind of know, but just for the sake of those watching online or the handful of folks we got here, where do you kind of see the ecosystem, technology ecosystem going? I mean, what you had mentioned that vSphere is kind of like the core, Calvin or whatever, and Mark. Where do you kind of see things kind of spewing off to?
I think, HCI is definitely going to be the short-term play. I think what's really interesting is the next iteration of HCI that's not quite here yet. How that develops and how things like storage class memory and whatever's after NAND that becomes a standard really changes that. Couple that with some of the software that's happening, the ability to move things between cloud, hypervisors, etc. I think you're going to have a really interesting changing way that companies operate.
I wish I would have had more time to read the article and digest what he was trying to say, but the one guy that all of us have read regularly, Chuck Hollis, who a couple of years ago he was out there riding the HCI bandwagon, and he just wrote a blog post the other day saying he was wrong and he thinks that HCI isn't really all that it's cracked up to be. I don't know if that's him wearing his Oracle shill hat or if that's really a true perspective he has. I mean, I'm really interested to read that article. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it yet.
I saw the post. I didn't as well. I didn't get a chance to read it. Isn't HCI kind of being locked in as well, though? I mean, you got all the bundle in one appliance, one vendor. Go ahead, take it.
Yeah, that's always the case. You're always going to be locked in when you buy anything.
Right.
But it's all about locking in with the features that you need, what you buy, and be good enough, and it being simple. I think the real change that's really happening in IT is we're stopping to worry about nerd knobs. We don't want to worry about the technology. We want to worry about how we drive business value, how our decisions increase our profitability as the company as a whole. That's the difference.
So when we go to self-spanning, because it's so different and it is SaaS, and typically we don't think about Salesforce as being something we have to protect and manage and take care of that information. We talk about the 4 delivery models we have right now, right? So we have on-premises, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. And one thing that I see is it kind of relates to what you're saying. We care about the applications. We care about what the data goes into those applications drives. What benefit to the business does it drive? What benefit to people does it drive? If you're a hospital or if you're creating a drug that's going to save people's lives, that's what really matters, is the data that we're creating to do that. We're the ones that know how to store the data. What I think is scary is more and more emphasis is on the applications as the underneath changes. So if underneath is cloud and you don't get to touch the stack, what does that change when I'm writing an application if I never test it the same way? How do I know what's going on with the data, and are we going to have to pay for that in 2 or 3 years? And I think that because we're making the storage piece so ubiquitous, really, and not mattering anymore, it's the applications that matter. But if I'm writing and developing an application and I don't understand the underneath, is there going to be an issue with that, with all of the things we know as storage people we have to protect to have data available all the time?
Well, you can't outsource responsibility, right? If you're moving that idea of the data resiliency application layer has to be in the application guys, they have to take that paranoid storage admin mentality and adopt it. And they agree, they don't have it. They're not used to that. And that's really the problem. But we see in the IT industry where the floodgates are rising, and we don't want to worry about infrastructure. We don't want to worry about network. And that's rising to the application layer, and that's where it's going to be in a couple of years. But all the stuff we do still has to happen.
And I think we have to realize too, all that stuff has to happen, but it has to happen in different ways. I think it's critical, the knowledge that we all have, the kind of like just information knowledge of our industry. We have to keep sharing it with people and keep poking on people, all the different vendors, and keep reminding each other that this stuff is important. We have to teach it to the new people coming into our industry and make sure, for God's sake, that we get it to the application people so that they understand it.
Oh my gosh.
While we're in this cycle,
Well, I think you made a good point, Gina, and I think Mark touched on a little bit. Even though I know VMware talks a lot about cloud software and defined data center lately, but more so going towards the cloud, we still have to know what goes on with that underlying infrastructure on the cloud. We still have to have knowledge experts in our business to understand how that works, to apply resources to those applications, or storage needs of those applications, etc., networking. So even though it's not necessarily the vSphere admin anymore, though, is it? It's the cloud admin understanding what the cloud management interface or management UI is and how it interacts with your applications.
Or is it? I mean, that's kind of...
Yeah, or is it?
I think our job titles are just bizarre. That's why when I did the careers channel, the careers panel on opening acts, I wanted everyone to tell me, what is your job title and what do you actually do? Because, I'm a product marketing manager, but I can get down with all the technical stuff because I'm still up on it because I was a sysadmin. So I think these job titles and if you look in organizations, depending on the size of them, they may have a cloud manager, they may have a cloud architect, they may have one IT guy. It may be the exchange person that handles all of it now. So it's really hard to tell by titles what someone actually does.
So when talking about, sorry, Mark, you can segue into this, talking about the flux of the industry and the ecosystem, so our job titles are too, right?
Well, I was saying, we've been working on a while of breaking down the silos in infrastructure, and that changes a lot of what we do, and our job titles become just words that don't really reflect what we do anymore. But at the same time, as what we've historically done moves to the application, we've got to be leery because we're just creating another silo, right? The silos are just bigger. We have to learn how to break down that silo when we're still trying to figure out how to break down the infrastructure silos in many organizations.
Right.
Well, and I think as vendors, one of the things that we're hearing loud and clear from customers is to focus on, this is not saying anything different than you guys already didn't say, but it's making that infrastructure invisible. Turn the infrastructure into code. We don't even want to know what it is anymore, and let's automate as much as we can, open APIs so that you can manage this stuff however you want to do it, and let's just make the infrastructure effectively disappear. And then there's going to be a rise of the focus on applications. It's already happening today that all kinds of tools that an application administrator can have to do a backup. It's not a backup administrator so much anymore doing a backup. It's the VM administrator. It's the database administrator who's going into their console and are running a backup, doing a snapshot and saving it off someplace else. So, a lot of this stuff is becoming application managed.
At the same time, that's something I think VMware is starting to do a better job of, is unified APIs, and they're starting to look more the same and things being managed from those APIs. A couple years ago, I think it was pretty terrible. It's not great today, but it's definitely getting better. I can see them embracing that more, and that's what everybody's going to have to do in the infrastructure side.
So I think part of getting back to your point, Calvin, is you think some of those third-party vendors that do backups, for instance, Veeam or Zito, they're designing better, so there's less of that explicit title of backup admin or whatever, because it's more integrated for cloud services, backing up to cloud, DR as a service, where you don't need to have that explicit expertise in those areas, although at a high level, for sure. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think there's always been this focus of an application-aware backup. You want to be able to do a backup, quiesce everything. We've been doing that in the industry for 20 years.
Right.
What's happening now, though, is to make that actual, simplify, automate. So now somebody goes in and sets up policies about how I want to do my backup, how long am I going to keep it for, where is it going to go, how many copies am I going to store, am I going to replicate the backup someplace else so I have, my 321 number of back copies of stuff. So a lot of, I think, what's happening now is just take that and put it into the hands of the application owner so that they can do their own backup. You don't get a backup administrator doing it. And we love backup administrators, but who really cares about the data? It's the application.
So spanning is built so that the end users can restore their own data. So I'll take it even a step further. Who wants to do backups at all? None of us do. Even when we were, sysadmins and doing backups, that's like, you get in on the next day and it's like, the whole half a day is wasted on trying to figure out why the backups couldn't finish. This is a long time ago, so before this was taped, so kind of dating myself. But but let's take it a step further. Why put an IT ticket in if you've done something goofy and deleted, a couple of folders, why not be able to do it yourself? So that's how we've designed our backup.
Yeah, exactly. You can take the infrastructure out of it. There's companies out there, and they're on the show floor, and solutions change. Code 42. We actually have it in our organization. Install a little agent on the device. User has complete control of their data. So you don't have to have a file server necessarily anymore. And I still think there's needs for it. But
it's okay. You'll learn to like it.
But yeah, but it's great. It goes back to your point exactly. Is there even a need? Yeah, there's a need, but not as strong. So we're transitioning for sure.
If you go back to the whole idea of application owners knowing what's with their data, there's always going to be a need for, onboarding, offboarding, compliance, everything else. So you're always going to have somebody who's got some responsibility to be able to do all of those things. But users can restore their own data. What's the big deal with that?
Exactly.
Well, and we don't know the criticality of data like a user or an application guy. We can't pick that. We don't know what it is, so somebody has to take that responsibility. Historically, everything's 30 days, 7 years, forever. That just like everything else, has to move up to a higher layer to make the right decision.
Yeah, but if you've ever been a backup admin and a VP has nuked something and he's on his way to give a presentation or a big sales pitch, it becomes everybody's top priority to get that goofy VP's folder back.
But like most things, this is a cultural problem, not a technology problem. But in the end, we all work to get paid. And when your boss's 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 boss
make them happy,
says, get that file back, you find a way to get that file back.
Let's switch gears a little bit, kind of wind things down here in just a few. As far as from a communities and gatherings standpoint, any of the events since Monday you've attended you like? Anything that you've gone to that kind of wowed you, and what'd you think?
I love bacon.
Lauren did a great job with that party. It wasn't overcrowded, and it was really...
Was that last night?
That was last night. And I walked into the Bean party, and that looked amazing, and everybody was having such a good time, but it was too crowded for me.
Yeah,
but everybody looked like
packed.
they were having an awesome time, so that looked good too.
And I was at the Veeam party all night, so after a quick stop at the vExpert party, but the Veeam party is always a great party. Those guys are great for the community. So.
Right.
Yeah, the venue for the vExpert party was really cool. So I kind of nerded out a little bit. The Mob Museum, I liked the venue.
Anything there that you?
I was looking for some
whatever?
Family that I thought might be there, and I could not find them. Apparently, they were not big names enough to make it onto the wall of the Goombas.
I like just the history of Vegas and how close it's tied to the mob. The other thing is they had this video going. I love conspiracy theories too. I had never heard
I know where you're going. John Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy and the mob. If you sat there and you're listening to that was pretty cool.
It was the kind of tying it to the mob that Lee Harvey Oswald had a connection to somebody in the mob, and they were trying to make the story that it was actually a mob-related murder of John Kennedy.
If you love conspiracy theories, that's an awesome one. The other thing is I keep running into people from when we first started. I came from EMC to Dell the first time to build the storage community. So keep running into everybody, and we're all at different companies. So we are planning to just kind of have an informal get-together here at between 12 and 1:30, just as people can make it. I think probably we'll try to do something a little more formal in Austin for Dell World, but that's kind of fun too, is just seeing everybody that you had such strong connections with, and that was such a great community that we built, to see everybody, and everybody's doing so well in different places. So
nice.
Well, that's always the best thing about these things, right? Interacting with the people, and so you have seen all the time, haven't seen in a while, who you don't even know. Meet people and talk to people.
Well, I told somebody at breakfast this morning, I don't remember who, but it is as much as we've all had these huge expectations about VMware and the keynotes, and it's like, I will keep coming back because for me it's about the community. And
that is one thing for sure, and I think we touched on it in Monday's episode. The community's actually breaking a little bit with the industry. They're choosing different career paths based on the goals that they have. But in general, overall, the community, the vExpert community, because that's kind of where it is, but even those that aren't even vExperts, because we're a community as a whole, it's still there. The core is still there.
Yeah.
The camaraderie is still there, and it's more than just tech. somebody's in need for this, or somebody's in need for that, going through troubles, needs to chat about this or that. I mean, we're there for each other, and I think that's really unique with our community.
Well, I said this Sunday, we're a guild. I think there's no other way around it. We're a guild, so no matter where you go, no matter what team jersey you're wearing, we are going to be there for each other and help each other with not just the technical professional, also the professional. How do you get forward? How do you handle work-life balance? How do you handle all these things? We're just always going to be there for each other, which I think is awesome.
Any final thoughts?
Well, the one thing for me, for the community, again, and it's VMware's community to manage, but the vExpert community, I mean, at the party last night at the Mob Museum, there were so many people there I did not know. And there's an element where there seems to be, you can take something too far, and I don't know what their objectives are. You look at MVP, and there's, 8,000 of them. So I don't know if they're trying to get it to be that big, but it feels like to me that the community is almost getting too big, because it's too hard to know who everybody is now.
Yeah, but you don't have to know everybody, right?
That's true. That's absolutely true.
As long as you try to meet new people and
That's
are
true.
inclusive.
And it's kind of cool that we were talking about this yesterday, that we don't know everybody anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool because really the community has grown, and we're not just this weird clique or fraternity, which I wouldn't fit into anyways, but we're not just this weird little tiny thing. We're open and growing, and more people are joining, so you get to find out new viewpoints, and I think it's really cool.
Gina, this is a newsflash. You have fit into the fraternity. It's just not a fraternity. It's a guild.
Yes, it is a guild. I'll go with that. I can't believe we're not talking about college football. I'm disappointed.
Well, that
kind of
is this
expected that,
weekend,
but
and we all know, because we don't need to. It's Ohio State. But
what do you mean, Broncos? Go Boise State.
Well, I had forgot to mention at the beginning, for those who were expecting to see Michael Letchin up here, I did the guest or the host fill in for him, and Mark May kindly took over my spot as panelist. But I want to thank you guys for joining, and I hope you all stick around for the remainder of the day in the afternoon for the vBrownbag Tech Talks coming up. Hope you have a good rest of your conference. Thanks.